We should talk about Republicans in North Carolina who just proposed a constitutional amendment that would effectively legalize murder to stop abortions. And no, I'm not actually even exaggerating for a punchy intro or clickbait. This is one of the most extreme bills that we've seen in this post-Roe era. Right, so the proposal in question here was sponsored by two Republican members in the North Carolina State House. You got Representatives Keith Kidwell and Ben Moss, and specifically this legislation would establish that, quote, a distinct and separate human life begins when the egg and sperm combine during fertilization, and as a result, quote, that human life is recognized by the state as an individual person entitled to the protection of the laws of this state. And so not only would the measure ban all abortion from the moment of conception, it would also make it so that anyone who tries to get or facilitate an abortion would get charged with attempted murder, and those who succeeded would get charged with first-degree murder. But then also, the text of this proposed law explicitly states, any person has the right to defend his or her own life or the life of another person, even by the use of deadly force if necessary, from willful destruction by another person. Or in other words, it would authorize the use of deadly force to prevent an abortion from happening. And so unsurprisingly, when this was unveiled, it got a ton of traction and a lot of backlash online, with many arguing that in addition to just being outright fucking insane, it doesn't even make logical sense. Or you had some people posting that if someone used deadly force against a pregnant woman getting an abortion and kills her, the fetus would also die. Because regardless of how you might feel about abortion, experts widely agree that a fetus can't viably live outside of its mom until 23 to 24 weeks of gestation. But then that's also not the only hole in the legislation, as one person on Twitter noted. Oh, so a rapist can impregnate a woman against her will and then legally kill her if she tries to get an abortion, saying Republicans hate women. And then beyond that, you also had a lot of people arguing that because the language in this bill is so vague, it could jeopardize in vitro fertilization, emergency contraception like Plan B, and even birth control methods like IUDs, with one journalist claiming on Twitter, it's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card for men who want to murder their partners. All they have to do is prove the woman intended to use birth control or have an abortion. In fact, the proposal got so much backlash that one of the sponsors, State Representative Ben Moss, actually ended up pulling his support, saying in a statement that he was removing his name as a sponsor after further discussion and feedback from constituents and members of the community. And while he went on to say that he is still anti-abortion, he believes that the legislation must be written with absolute clarity, and adding, the purpose behind this legislation was to affirm the value and dignity of human life, not to suggest that women should face capital punishment or to create uncertainty surrounding difficult medical situations. But adding, unfortunately, portions of the bill's current language have led to significant misunderstandings that distract from the core pro-life message and intent. So there you had plenty of people pushing back, saying it's pretty hard to see how anyone can misunderstand or misinterpret the bill, like we all read what it says. But regardless, the bill only has one sponsor left, and even before that, it was seen kind of essentially as dead on arrival. Right, for one thing, it's a proposed constitutional amendment, meaning that it would have to get 3/5 support in the legislature to even make it onto the ballot. And then the voters, they'd still have to approve it even after that. But also, you have experts arguing that even if this bill, right, never really had a shot, we should all still take these outlandish pieces of legislation very seriously. Right, as Jessica Valenti, the author of the Abortion Everyday newsletter on Substack, put it, whether or not a bill has a chance of passing right now is beside the point. In fact, one of our weaknesses as a movement is that we're stuck on reacting to current threats rather than looking decades forward. And adding, that's certainly what the anti-abortion movement's doing. They're laying the groundwork now for laws that they want to pass in 10 or 20 years. And adding, with bills like this, Republicans are giving us a roadmap. Why in the world would we ignore it? But they're also going on to argue that this kind of legislation also poses a cultural danger, right? Noting that death threats against clinics and providers, they doubled in the last year, and adding, this bill sends the message that violence against providers isn't just fine, but brave. And you have others noting that with Kidwell, this is following a trend. In his first term, for example, he proposed a 13-week abortion ban and then took it to the next level in his second term, floating a measure that would ban abortion when a heartbeat was first detected. And then last year, he introduced a measure that would have classified abortion as a Class B1 felony, the same level as rape and kidnapping, and this latest bill, of course, went even further. And so the fact that you have elected officials not only talking about this, but building legislation, it's something you have to pay attention to. Especially because, of course, remember, not too long ago, the idea of overturning Roe v. Wade, it seemed impossible to so many people. But slowly, through years and years of steady work, packing the courts, taking the long-term approach, conservatives made it happen. If you think that they've switched up the game plan, my only question is, how big was the thing that dropped on your head?